Hello, hello. It is us again. And Monster, I can't really see very well in this light. Monster is basically stood waiting for breakfast. And yeah. So for once, he's more interested in trying to get his own breakfast. Monts, come out. Come out, you monkey. Rosie helps keep the monkey in order. So yeah, he's more interested in breakfast than the camera. Anywho, today's vlog, hello, I know, you love the camera really. Anyway, today's vlog is about how we are transitioning to barefoot. Oh, there we go, you know, sweetheart. Yes, you read the title right, and yes, you heard me right. We live in the Pennines, where it's wet and windy and boggy a lot of the time, and with really rough, steep terrain. Yes, I have an ex-racehorse with typical thoroughbred feet. So why, I hear you cry, on earth would we even contemplate it? To be honest, his feet just, particularly last year, were awful, and I decided we needed a different approach, try something new. I know it was really wet everywhere, and particularly here a lot of the year. He was losing shoes, his feet would flake and crack and break up. He would get bruises on his soles when he was particularly landing on any kind of like stone or anything like that. But even just kind of like running around the field, he would give himself bruises on his soles. Abscesses, oh my goodness me. I mean, I could have kept the people who make poultice stuff in business last year, particularly. I think one time we ended up with 3 abscesses in 3 feet in 3 or 4 weeks, something ridiculous like that. And I think that was it just all came to a head in terms of they aren't coping. So and that's us, as in me as the owner, alongside the vet and the farrier, that usual party of 3 who look at everything together, vet and the farrier from the professional perspective, and me from the owner's perspective, to make sure we're doing the best for the horse. We decided, let's think about doing something different. And I talked to various people who have ex-racehorses about how they were managing theirs. I talked to people who had their horses barefoot, and obviously, most importantly, talked to my farrier about whether he thought we could do it both here and with him. And we decided, if nothing else, let's just take the shoes off. Or we planned it for when I decided to have a break from riding anyway. So over winter last year, we thought, well, if we take the feet off, even if it's for a couple of months, give them a rest, give them a chance to recover, strengthen up a bit, get rid of the weaker stuff, then we could always just see what happens. Obviously, Rosie's helping to tell this story in the background as well. 1 second. Talked to my farrier about sorts of considerations. Basically sort of said there isn't really any kind of like magic formula. And also don't have any misconceptions about what horse can and can't. So you need to take into account the kind of whole picture around the type of horse, how he is, his weight, his conformation, what he does, and how much, where he is in terms of the ground he has to navigate, etc. My main worries about going barefoot, whether his feet would stand it, obviously, and also what I wanted to keep doing with him, predominantly eventing on grass and any kind of like different types of ground when we were doing that, gritty, rocky, hey you. So I had a few worries about whether we would be able to cope. And I realised it was going to be a bit of a process in terms of having time and patience to see any benefit. So our farrier came every sort of 6-ish weeks to check on our progress, give the feet a proper look, check and trim anything that needed to be trimmed off. But also a real sort of go over all of the feet to see if there were any worry areas or if any preventative measures needed to be taken. And also trained me, for want of a better word, in how to really care for his feet, given what we wanted to do, and know what normal was for him, for each of his feet, and therefore being able to look out for what wasn't normal. And obviously being very mindful that every horse's feet is different, but also each one of the 4 feet is different. So it's not about trying to get all 4 feet looking the same and perfect, but being able to get all 4 feet being sound and healthy for him. I also got to learn quite a lot about the hoof to help me with some of this, because I don't know whether I should have known a lot of this already, but anyway, could have googled it, I guess. But what was really helpful to know is that the shape of the front and the back are obviously different. So he should have rounder feet at the front and more oval or egg-shaped feet at the back. That because obviously the weight of the horse is more front-loaded, so about 60%. Therefore, the front feet take 60% of the weight. And that in itself has, therefore, certain things to look out for in terms of potential issues. And then the back feet are the toe of the back feet are the hardest part of all of the hooves, because that's where his engine is, and he basically has all the propulsion in terms of his movement, whether he's like galloping or jumping on the toes of those back feet. So again, things therefore you need to think about and look out for. I mean, obviously picking out the feet has been part of my management routine. Things that I learned: really pay attention to the seat of the corn, which is the bit where the sole and the frog and the hoof wall at the back of the foot kind of come together, and where the bars of the foot are, because if that's not kept kind of like clean of debris, that can cause corns, obviously. And interestingly, I hadn't realised this, again, because of the 60% of the weight, that being at the front of the horse, that most corns, not all, but most corns happen on the front inside hooves. So there you go, that's something to kind of look out for. Obviously, frog-wise, particularly paying attention to the cleft of the frog, and anything that might get into that. Any discharge or smell, or again debris, just keeping an eye on all of that. And then we move on to the sole of the foot. So again, for him, particularly knowing he has had a lot of bruised soles, I am always checking with just kind of either using thumbs, or if you've got gammy hands like mine that don't necessarily have much strength, then I just use the end of my, what's it called? Hoof pick. So if it has any sort of slight flinching, or if it feels slightly softer or yields more, then that might indicate a problem. And then we move on to the white line, so the bit between, on the sole of the foot, the bit between obviously the hoof wall and the sole. And that's the bit that is particularly for here where we live, something I have to keep a really close eye on, because it's quite stony and gravelly and bits get into the white line. And if that's not kept clean and regularly picked out properly, then things can get embedded and compacted and basically cause problems like particularly abscesses. So every day, twice a day in fact, I'm quite obsessive about this now. Morning, basically breakfast and tea, we get a proper check and picking out and cleaning of his feet, just to make sure they're all looking okay. And with the white line, I use a tiny little kind of filey thing to just pick out any little stones or bits of things. And then the last check that I do on his hooves is the heel bulbs, again just to check that they are all sound, not cracked, not sore, nothing going on there. But equally, again, I just press a little bit with that just to make sure there aren't any problems kind of brewing. So yeah, lots of checks to do, but it's really quick now in terms of what I'm trying to look for and what I need to be paying attention to. So that's just become part of our routine. I've also got myself a little rasp set, but I got those to, again, just be able to manage if any of the hoof was coming off or starting to look like it was getting a bit cracked. Just keep on top of keeping those tidy so that we can limit any damage that is done in between the trimmings. So we had about 3 months where I'd had the shoes off, and we were just doing work in the arena, and obviously him being out and about, and it was going okay. It was wet, obviously, over winter, but his feet seemed to be coping. But then the first sort of proper test we did was when we went and we went out basically, and just did some work on grass, and we ended up at speed going on some stones, and basically we had another load of abscesses. So obviously his feet weren't as strong or as hard as I needed them to be able to think about doing any particular work with him other than being in the arena. So we started on Keratex. Obviously other products are available, but oh my goodness, that has been a game changer for his feet. We started off with putting it on every day for I think a week, and then you basically put it on twice a week thereafter just to keep it topped up, I suppose. And it's just like painting on a nail hardener for your own nails, really. So that has been incredibly helpful. We've also been on his food regime for about 6 or 7 months at this point. So we're starting to get in the right level of all the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals. And we'd got that new hoof supplement as well, so that was hopefully also starting to do the trick in terms of the internal strength. And we got some boots for hacking out in and for going up and down our road, just to give him as much protection as possible. And there's so much choice out there, I just had absolutely no clue. I mean, I can measure his feet, but what would be best for him? Because I was going to be using them a lot, and because I wanted to make sure that I was going to get some that really suited his feet and were going to stay on. So I actually decided if I'm going to invest a load of money in a hoof boot, then I'm going to get some expert advice. So I worked with the Hoof Boutique, who were fab, and I'll do a separate vlog on that because it was really interesting and just incredibly helpful. But we ended up, after having kind of tried a few different makes and sizes on, we ended up with some Renegade Vipers, which are very, very cool. He kind of looks like RoboCop in them. And we've been hacking out in them, and again, they seem to be doing the trick in terms of he's really comfortable in them and also really forward going, so it's obviously suiting him to have his feet totally protected from the rocky terrain where we live when we go out, which is great news. I'm sure there are other things I can be doing, but I feel like, touch wood, that the new approach to his feet is definitely making a difference and helping. So this is the before trim. Beautiful tootsies. Well, there would be if he stood still. Very pretty. Very pretty tootsies. So how's it going now? What are we on now? We are currently 8 months, I think, into being barefoot. His feet are looking fabulous. So the first few months were definitely the hardest, and I did have a moment or two of thinking, is this going to help? Is this going to work? But I was in a position where I could just actually, I was in the position where I could see it through, take the time and just see how it went, rather than having to think about getting shoes back on him to get out there. The farrier has said that his feet have never looked better. So he's never had such good feet in all the time he was shod, which is amazing to hear. And I personally get a load of confidence from knowing that my farrier is registered, has to undergo that scrutinised training and assessment to be able to both qualify but also to legally practice. So far so good, mister. Yeah. We've had a practice on grass just to see how it felt. I'm definitely more cautious at the minute because I keep worrying about him not having the grip or it feeling a bit weird for him. So I think I need to get used to it more than him. And actually, he has been fine on the grass. He feels really confident. It feels like he really enjoys being barefoot, if I'm honest. So far so good, and I am so pleased that we tried it, so pleased that it's going well at the moment. And yeah, we'll see how we get on in terms of doing the cross country on the grass. Right, I think that is it for now, not least because I'm getting very squinty in this gorgeous sun. Hopefully that was helpful for anyone who is also thinking about or in the process of going barefoot. Any hints or tips that anyone has that I can benefit from, please do share. And as always, if you did enjoy it, please like, comment and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. He's now decided the grass over the fence is better, obviously.